Welcome. I hope you are having a good time in DrupalCon. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ádám Nagy, and my Drupal.org nickname is Joe vagyok. I'm a maintainer for a handful of modules on Drupal.org. I listed them on the slides. And on the more professional side, I'm a software engineer and a Drupal consultant at the European Commission, working on a large-scale platform project which serves around 200 websites on the same code base. There are roughly around 300 Drupal websites under the European institutional umbrella. But if you want to know more about the history of Drupal in the European Commission, my colleague Hernani will hold a presentation tomorrow at 2 p.m. So please, you're more than welcome. So today I will talk about how contrib modules and contributions can affect a large-scale project. I brought some real-life examples with me about the good and bad, and most importantly, how to avoid disasters when mistakes happen, because, thank you, because mistakes do happen. So I think we can all agree in this room and outside of this room how contrib modules are just simply amazing. They are really powerful. I remember the first time when I started to use Drupal, I was just impressed the variety of modules available for us to choose and to extend our applications feature with them. And we, as an open source community, we shape the future of these modules together. We take decisions together in issue queues. And whenever we find a problem, we can just turn to the community for answers. If we are lucky enough, we might find a comment or a patch to solve our problems. And we can move on. And we can use these patches. However, dragging along these patches for too long, it's always a liability if you are not careful enough. What do you think? How many of these patches have automated tests to them? Well, not even 10%. But on the other hand, we are eager to have them in a stable release within our module, because we don't want to have maintained these as well, these patches in our dependency pool. In our project, we have around 100 contributed modules as dependency. So you can imagine. But when mistakes happen, we need to be vigilant. And we are human, so we need to be prepared because they will happen. I brought two examples from the recent past, which well illustrates the risks involved. One of them was with aggregator module that we use. An update path overrode the homepage path, which happened because they are using views displays, and they changed the path of the views display just to slash, and that basically made the site unavailable, because to visitor it's just a white screen that happens over there. So we detected this internally with testing pipelines, and we, thanks to the quick and prompt reply from the maintainers, we fixed it within the same day. So most probably no damage was done, and automated tests were introduced for that update path. The other example is with entity clone. Even in this situation, very, very good intention of the community was in play when they wanted to support the layout builder. So an untested functionality was released and basically caused some fatal errors in some certain edge cases and made extra orphan entities, which means that it cloned more entities than it should have, because it has a recursive way as well when you have reference fields in place. We detected this by nightly builds, more on that later, and the code was reverted the next day. So I'm pretty sure that no damage was done also in this case. It's worth to mention that Entity Clone doesn't have a stable release until today, but I think we all use modules in beta and alpha state. So, but let's imagine for a second what happens when the disaster kicks in, because I've been there, done that. So here I kind of illustrate this chain with the people involved. So you have a bad user experience, then these users are frustrated, you have reports, management gets frustrated, technical decisions being questioned, the development team suffers, they also start losing trust in the module that caused the problem. So there is a reliability issue, a fear of making changes will kick in because you're afraid, nah, that module is you know, it works now, we would prefer a workaround, etc. And these kind of situations will lead to unstable and slow releases, and the whole thing starts over and over. And what I want you to notice here is how this plays as a perceived reliability of Drupal. And this is our community responsibility here, that how contrib modules work and how reliable they are. Through them also Drupal as a product is gonna be considered reliable or not. So what to do to prevent this disaster from happening? Well, I would start with the shared community responsibility that we all have as we are using these modules. So the nice thing is, being besides taking patches, is that being actually active in a contributive sense. So making static code reviews, report back potential issues, because this is another big problem in contributed module scheme, that even though a contributed one of the module is well tested and it covers its use cases, but they cannot test it works with another one. But you do in your project, and we all do. When we try out things, okay, we report back in the issue queue, okay, it works with this in our case, it's nice. So it is still really important to throw back these feedbacks and improve the patch. And I think we as maintainers, even though not only but as community, because we all maintain these modules, we should require automated tests for these patches and changes, so that we lose all fear of making change. We can do more frequent stable releases, because these tests are executed one after the other. We know that the core functionality is covered. And reliable modules is equal reliable Drupal. And yeah, here I put a quote, which is bug fix without the test is just a workaround. I really like that. But how do you juggle this responsibility within your project responsibilities? Because you have that as well. You have your own milestones, deadlines, and clients to please. So we as a development team, we always must write tests, not only within the project, within the module, but within your own project. So having integration tests is a vital part of this. Contribute back fixes done internally that you catch by having these tests in play. Contribute back new features made internally. We in the case of entity clone, we had the need to be able to configure clonable entities, and instead of just doing that in-house, we had contribution in mind, and we gave it to the community in the form of well-refined tested pull request. And test code is as important as production code, and we want to keep it readable so it's flexible and maintainable. And no test inherently useful just because it exists. Well, this means that you need to validate the intention behind every fix and feature with the test. So how do we do that? In our case, with our team, when we work on solution design, we always consider existing modules first. We do analysis on what's there, if it does exist at all. Do we need to reinvent the wheel? Is it well maintained? Is it well tested? It's not a problem if it's not well tested, because if it's a well-written module, we still opt for using that module, and then we write tests for it. So this is because you can always add tests at any time in a product life cycle. And I will have a nice example for that, how to do that. And for custom features that we design, we have reusability and contribution in mind. So we all have our business requirements and our specific user stories and cases, but we try to abstract features out of them. Like, for example, when you have the need to store information which is related to an entity, but you don't want to store it on an entity to not to have extra operations, saves and update. This is how entity meta relation born. It's a contributed module, and we always try to, from architectural point of view, design things in a way that, okay, does it make sense for the community? Does it make sense for other websites? We have a set of contributed modules. It's called Open Europa, which are a set of components that are very useful for our own ecosystem and sites built for the commission. And there's another important thing with this is that it changes mindset. So when we take a contributed module on, we consider them as part of the project scope. And this is, I think this is shifts somehow how the attitude of the whole team, and because the contributed module is become part of your product. You want it to have it stable. You want it to have it reliable. So there is no issue justifying, okay, towards the business or anybody, okay, we need to write tests for this contributed module because we like it, we want to use it. On the development and testing side, I sketched up here a very simplified representation of our development build process. And we have multiple types of automated tests. We use kernel, unit, functional, and existing site. I'm not gonna enter into details into each of them, but what is really powerful here is being able to execute existing site tests, which allows you to test a whole installed product, configurations, and all settings. It's a full simulation of your product, which is very, very useful. And how we use this and employ this, besides having the normal project build and having running functional unit tests and kernel tests on the project build, we have two separate installs. So there is one install which installs the actual release, or when there is a development pull request, it installs from that point the site, and existing site tests run over that. And there is another which installs the previous release tag, and then it executes the update on that site, and then we run again. I mean, the whole thing happens simultaneously, but we run the same existing site tests over them. So we are sure that after the update, the install and the update is in the same state, and everything works as we expected. Because in the existing site tests are basically you can write functional, like you write functional tests. So you have access to the API. You can assert the front end, HTML. So you can basically assert the whole application as is, having already configuration and the whole installation in place. So this is really powerful. So our testing pipelines use this approach. We have nightly builds, which means they run overnight at least once. So since we have multiple dependencies in our composer, we want to keep these dependencies as loose as possible, because we want to benefit from new features, the security releases, etc. But it also allows us, like on a composer update, it will when there is a new release, we will catch these things. We use multiple manual acceptance tests after every feature. Plus, we do a whole group test, which is also manual on every release. And as an end, I would like to tell you two examples when this mindset of considering the contributed modules that we are using be part of the project scope. So the client wanted to protect email addresses on the website from spam bots. So we did an analysis on the existing solutions, and we chose spam module. However, at that time, that module was barely tested. It had some minimal test, but this was a very nice example how to start testing on an existing code or product. So what we did, we identified the most critical functionalities of the module, and we started from there. We wrote the test for those, and then we knew when we introduced further fixes that the core functionality is intact and it works as we expected. Thanks to the Drupal team from Germany for their contribution. And now the module is stable and benefits from quick and stable releases, because we can make way smaller increments of releases every time, which is great, I think, for everybody. The other is Maxlang module. When we all had that change from Drupal 9 to Drupal 10 and having a CK Editor 4 and CK Editor 5. That would have been very, very complicated to provide the both features to ensure that they both work the same way without automated tests. So beforehand that we got on board with the maintenance team, and we provided a wide range of tests for this module. And it was a success transition period from CK Editor 4 and 5, and now the module is used over 47,000 sites, and yeah, thanks to the Dev Collaborative team from the US on that contribution. So yeah, that's all for today. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, very interesting.
Welcome, thank you.
I was wondering, so the selection of contrib modules,
Yeah.
As I understand, like we have like a set of rules, like we are kind of picky, like we don't try to do as much contrib, but like 1,000 installs and more than one maintainer, and we have like some rules. And but as you say, you don't really look at that. You're more like, this provides the functionality we need. Let's build on top of that, which is quite interesting, because we end up doing maybe more custom code, which we also have to maintain. So
Yeah, so what we don't really look at, of course we look at if it's well maintained or not, but it's not a decisive factor for us. For us, what is decisive factor if it's well designed, if it uses the Drupal ecosystem as it should be, the API and everything. If it's well designed but it's not well maintained anymore, then we try to contact the maintainer and we try to get on board. And we tell, okay, we would like to use these modules because it doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel and redevelop the whole thing. And we know that if we do this, and others see that, okay, it's getting stable and people are actually not abandoning this module because many modules are being created and abandoned, then they do get on board. Then we get, okay, we like this and we can help out with maintainership. So
yeah, I like the approach because it can make them enthusiastic again when they see their installs rise again. Or so it's a good.
Exactly.
You could have also developed your own EU modules and then end up with a bunch of. But it's an interesting approach. Thanks.
Any more?
I have a question about your pipelines. Do you
Yes,
run?
I can pull up for you.
Okay.
Here you go.
Do you run tests for both contrib and custom modules in your pipeline?
No. So what we do is in our project we have our own custom modules, right?
Yeah.
For those we write tests, but we try to be within the frame of the purpose of the test. So when we focus on a custom module, right? And here in this representation, you have the functional and unit tests and kernel tests, which they run in their own instance. They don't need to have an install site, and if there is an installation involved, that happens with the functional test within that. It's with simple test does that, and so. And when we do this kind of tests in those custom modules, we do not retest what is already tested in another module. What we do test is that this module and this module works together. But how do we test that? Well, we have our requirements from the client. We have our user stories and big features. And like now you call this in Starshot recipes. So what we do is we test that, but that functionality and feature is composed by the behavior of these each individual little modules, and we sure, okay, they work together. And this is what we do also with the existing site test, which is a kind of end-to-end test, which ensures that the whole application integrity, that the integration of this module, if it's configured this way, it works with the other, making together one feature, which is called, I don't know, subscription feature or this kind of things. I hope you...
Okay, so
I
this is
answered
also
your
the way
question.
how you choose to which contrib module add tests on your own, because you contribute this way that you
Sorry?
do you write tests to the contributed modules as your contribution, yeah?
Yes.
So you choose this contributed module
Yes.
by the combined feature to your
Yes.
like a custom stuff.
Yes, indeed. If it
Okay.
makes sense for us, then we choose it. If it serves the purpose, then we write tests for them. And indeed, that is going to be executed within the ecosystem of the module, is using GitLab CI. Next one, please.
Yes, thank you for your presentation. What's when you don't reach the maintainer, so you don't have access to the module?
Yeah. Well, lucky enough, that never happened to us, actually. Somehow, either way, we could always reach them. But as far as I know, there is a kind of procedure with Drupal.org that if that happens, then they will help you, and then they will give you like a provisionary maintainership to help you take over, so that the module is not abandoned. And then as soon as the other maintainer shows up, then that was not so nice, you know. So, but there is procedures for that.
A bit back to this community part or Drupal.org. Do you have any idea to share about how this how to unblock these bugs waiting for tests? Because when it's like we are, all of us, we are in the two sides. Sometimes we are the one using the bug, and sometimes we are the maintainer. And myself, I am sure in the modules I take care, if I ask for a test, that won't ever happen. So I feel at the end I'm writing tests for people's patches.
Yes, absolutely agree. Well, it's a little bit the same situation in Drupal core with the contributions. I know, and this is what I try to do, as you do as well. Ask first the test, so the problem gets verified, and then the fix will make the test pass. But this is very difficult because of what you have explained, because this is the reality of today. Unfortunately, I have no magic wand here. The only thing that works in our cases that we do it ourselves, but for those which are within our scope. And I think if everybody starts having this kind of approach that, okay, we really need this, we want this patch to be in a stable release, we want this patch to evolve together with the module, so we don't need to re-roll every time, then let's do it. Because then the maintainer gonna see, okay, it's done, it works, it validates the problem more often than enough, it will end up in a release. So if we all do that on our own little premises, or how far we can extend, I think we're gonna cover together a lot of grounds. Anybody else?
I think one challenge can be if you are not in a stable team that is on one project for a long time, but you have like this project that you spend some time on, but then they close the budget, say, okay, we are happy now, go away. and then but you still have this content models that you kind of committed to and said, I will support this, yes, but then there's no more time that you can allocate to it, unless you do it in your free time, which of course you can do.
Yes. It's true that in our case, since it's a large scale project, it's on a longer timeline, so we do stick around. But there are, as you said, these projects when things move fast and then close and then just next, and then you won't use the module in the other one, and then how? Well, I think there is again, I can come back to the community, and we did that actually with some other modules when we seek for maintainers. We posted an issue in the issue queue. Okay, we are looking for maintainers. However, well, if you make something, you want to at least have it minimally maintained, so there is security patches go in, major updates happen. But abandoning a module, well, then did you really need that module in the end? I mean, you see. So if it gets abandoned and people don't use it, it is not really viable enough, that module. Maybe something else does that better. So yeah.
The idea was if you are no longer in that project, or yeah, maybe you're jumping between projects or
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you are a maintainer, right?
yeah, of course. Like
yeah.
so that if you have your own feeling of being committed to this module, then
Yeah.
it's a different story. But maybe could be a problem where some people just feel they just feel the module as part of this project
Yeah.
and not a personal attachment, then it could get abandoned as soon as the project.
Well, yes, but I mean, if you have your little garden and you take care of your little plants, they can swap ownership. I mean, I don't think that's an issue, but for sure there is a period of time when in our cases as well, when that module doesn't get that much attention, but yet we still get kicked by the community. Hello, we need this and that, so we try to squeeze in some contribution in that sense. There is an initiative about that in the commission as a community of practice, so we try to do that. But of course, in another entity where budget is tight and deadlines in tight, may not be possible. Yeah.
Also, I assume that if you
that's a
contact the
tricky
maintainer,
question.
then that maintainer, when they do a review or something, they might do it in their free time because they're already out of this other project where they
Yeah.
initially wanted to do this thing.
Yeah.
Like-
But if someone proposes a patch and writes fix for that module, that person might have an interest of maintaining that module further. So there is there is an importance here to communicate clearly and get people on board and involve them and somehow have a better visibility over these kind of contributions in the sense that, okay, people come in help, yet I know that there is this little thing that was made sponsored by your company. You can do that if you do a contribution, you mark it, okay, it was sponsored by for a client or whatsoever. But I as far as I've seen, there is no focus on that. So, but I think it's a problem in every community. But
How do you avoid the development of a module becoming like too internal? Because I think sometimes there's a situation where it's almost the releases come up on like Drupal.org, but there's stuff happening in the background and people might be reporting issues, but that communication isn't happening.
how do you overcome?
Or avoid it? Like you probably have like a line where you're like, we have to communicate this and be transparent.
Well, even when we work on stuff which is considered as internal, and might not make sense from you, but let's say you're a maintainer of module X and you have a task within your company to write a test or an extra functionality to that module. You might think, okay, let's do this like quick and we make pull requests, but what we do is we follow the contribution process. So we always open an issue. We make it visible what we do. Even nobody's gonna comment under, besides my colleagues that they did a review and it's accepted. There is a visibility and track record of what happened, and if there is something happens through the commit message, you have the issue number and it's in there. So there is always this is what we do. We try to make it visible.
That's the good practice.
Yeah. And it's not much extra time. It's really not. It's just it's about the same as you owning your class, make it work nicely, being abstract. It's the same for contribution. Make a nice issue, have it well defined, because it will help future contributors to understand what happened there, why this feature was needed, because the commit messages often doesn't say anything, or does it?
Thank you. I think we're
One more? Okay.
Any chance you want to grab each other outside? Is that all right?
Yeah, we can continue this discussion outside. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you much, everyone.
In my presentation. Thank you.